Over the last few years of traveling and living out of my carry-on sized backpack, I developed 10 rules that help me to simplify my packing list and travel lighter. But I believe those rules can be applied by everyone. It doesn't matter if you're a minimalist traveler or not. So they are not just for the digital nomad who tries to live out of a tiny backpack for 2 years, but I think everybody can use them to make their 2 weeks vacation or their weekend getaway or their next business trip easier. It was only for me that once I experienced traveling with less, I did not want to go back anymore. But I still remember those old days of hauling around my huge suitcase and getting nervous every time when I go to the airport, being worried if it's overweight or not. Today I'm going to break down my 10 rules that help me travel with less. And if I had to choose one rule to stick to, then it would be the last one because it kind of boils everything down to the most important thing. So rule number 1 is to think in modules. My packing list in the past read something like a shopping list with just random items. So I need a t-shirt, I need pants, I need sunscreen, I need a toothpaste, I need a passport. But the approach that made it easier for me is to just think in modules now. So I usually ask myself, what do I need to cover on that trip? And for me, those modules are often the same. So I usually need a toiletries module, I need some clothes, I need tech if I want to work on the road, and also an EDC. And if I go to a special occasion, like to a wedding, then obviously this would be a separate module as well. And this helps me to see my bag instead of this big black hole where everything disappears as kind of a collection of smaller and more manageable modules. And once I figure out what those modules need to be on my next trip, then I try to cover those needs with as few products as possible. And over the years of repeatedly packing those modules, many of them have become dialed in, and it saves me a lot of mental space every time I need to pack my bag. So one example would be my toiletries. So over the years, I experimented and tried to figure out the minimum amount of products that I would need. So for me, the minimum is something to wash my hair and my face and my body, a moisturizer at night, a sunscreen in the morning, and an antiperspirant. And now I'm just experimenting with different products that fulfill those functions. And over time, some favorites start to emerge that I really enjoy using while traveling. And the same thing happens with all the other modules. Rule number 2, the 80% rule. This rule is very simple, but it changed a lot for me. And that is that I always try to fill my backpack to a maximum of around 80%. And I personally never really understood all those packing hacks where people try to bring extra gear that doesn't fit in their bags and try to hack the airline system, like stuffing clothes in a neck pillow or wear 5 t-shirts to save space. Because what am I going to do with all those things once I arrive at my destination? I'm someone who's constantly on the move, and I want to be able to fit everything comfortably into my bag to be able to move. So the 80% rule for me ensures that everything fits inside my bag and that I have room to spare. And not filling up the bag has 3 main benefits for me. The first one is that obviously the bag is much more comfortable to carry if it does not bulge out everywhere. The second benefit is that it makes packing and unpacking much easier. And the third one is that most importantly, it leaves me some room for all those things I acquire on the trip. Sometimes it's some snacks, sometimes it's a bottle of shampoo or sunscreen that I pick up at my destination, or sometimes it's just an extra bottle of water. But I want to be able to zip my bag effortlessly every single time. Rule number 3, give everything a home. In my bag, I always try to give every single thing a dedicated spot. I usually organize all my modules in separate packing cubes, and all those things that I want to be accessible when I'm on the road, I always make sure that I can easily reach them from the outside of the bag. Because I really don't want to have to unpack everything and just dig through my bag to find things. The key here for me is consistency, and I always try to put the things in the exact same spot. So for me, it reduces a lot of mental effort because after some time, it just becomes muscle memory. So I don't have to think about where those things are. I just always know where they are. And for me, this is also a fantastic way to forget less things because it's much easier to notice if the dedicated spot is empty, what I'm missing and what I'm forgetting. So I'm far less likely to leave things behind because I often notice their absence immediately. Rule number 4, Ditch the just-in-case items. I think that leaving the just-in-case items is one of the hardest rules to follow, but it is also the one that saves the most weight, and it really pays off to be more ruthless. And this is also something that I have to remind myself for every single trip, because I regularly stand over my pile of clothes and wonder if I should not bring this jacket maybe just in case, or all those things. And I think in those situations we focus on the wrong thing. Often we are more worried about what we would miss and what we would need versus the freedom it would bring us if we would not have to haul around this thing for the next few weeks or months. And I think we're always trying to pack for every single worst case scenario, because that gives us a feeling of control, even if it weighs us down, literally. So I often ask myself if it's really worth packing that item and carrying it around if I may not even need it, or maybe only need it once. Because many uses of those things I could probably just fulfill with some other equipment. Maybe it's a little bit less fancy and a little bit less comfortable, and maybe it takes a little bit more time, but it would also be doable. And if it is something that I can easily repurchase at my destination, then I just leave it at home. And the best way to figure out which items are just-in-case items for you, in my opinion, is after a trip. So I usually look at the things I brought, and if something was not used for the whole duration of the trip, then chances are high that this was a just-in-case item, and I will try to avoid packing it in the next trip. And this is mainly true for travel gadgets and things, but just use your common sense there, because sometimes you just make genuine mistakes packing. For example, you brought a winter coat to a summer destination, then this was not a just-in-case item, then it was just not the correct item you need for that trip, and it may be very well useful for a different kind of trip. Rule number 5, the real just-in-case items that you cannot pack. So this rule is about adding a few non-physical things that will improve your trip a lot. One mantra that I live by for decades now is that I should only insure things that I cannot afford to lose. So for example, Apple Care is something that I personally decided that I don't need. Yes, it would suck if I would break my phone, but honestly, I could afford to buy a new one. But ensuring my health and making sure that if I get into a medical emergency abroad, that I will receive the help I need and that they would bring me home, this is something that is absolutely worth my money. And for the travel insurance, I don't care too much if they refund me my hotel ticket. What I really want is, in a medical emergency, that they are there to help and that they cover all the costs. So for example, that one time where they sent the repatriation flight to bring us home from Brazil to Europe, this thing would have definitely financially ruined us, probably for a few generations. So for me, a good travel insurance provides more peace of mind than any just-in-case item ever could. Another thing that I always make sure that I have is a pay-as-you-go travel SIM that I can use for emergencies and also to make phone calls if necessary. So for me, the best SIM card that fulfills my needs is Roamless, and I already did a separate video about them. But just being able to make an emergency phone call, or check my maps when I'm out and about, or communicate with my bank when I'm abroad is just priceless. And in those situations, I don't want to rely on flaky Wi-Fi or having to run around to try to get a local SIM card. So for me, those things are essential on every trip, even though they don't use up any space in my bag, but they just reduce a lot of my anxiety. Rule number 6, don't bring a problem. Some items look great in theory on a packing list or maybe in an Instagram feed, but they can turn into a nightmare on the road. So I always try to not bring any problem that I then have to deal with for the duration of the whole trip. So a few of the problems that I have encountered over the years, for example, are shoes. They look pretty, but they are uncomfortable, falling apart, giving me blisters. Also clothes that are difficult to care for, which is also the reason why I personally am not traveling with merino wool t-shirts anymore. I already did a video about that as well. I will link it below. Also underwear that doesn't stay in place, the socks that don't dry. And my worst packing mistake was when I did my first long distance hiking in Austria, so all the way over the mountains. And I decided for some reason that it would be a good idea to bring an 800-page book with me to read at night. I never read, and I could not throw it away because you're not supposed to leave trash in the mountains. And also it was not my book, I borrowed it from someone. So I just had to carry this book for a few hundred kilometers up and down the mountains. So I think it's different for everyone which things would become a potential problem. So for example, I often travel for months at a time. So for me, it's very important that I have clothes that are durable and that I can wear all the time. If I bring a merino wool t-shirt that is very fragile and needs special laundry detergent and I cannot put it in the dryer, then I'm bringing a problem. But if you go on a shorter trip and you have access to laundry facilities where you can properly care for those things, then durability may, for example, be less of an issue for you. Rule number 7. Layers are your best friend. I always try to pick clothes that I can layer easily, and that kind of helps me to travel almost all year long with the same essential items. So instead of owning one heavy, bulky coat for the winter, I bring thinner layers that work together. So just for example, I have a thin insulating jacket and I also have a rain jacket, and I can wear them separately in warmer climates and just combine them when it gets very cold. And this way I can wear them in almost every season. They're easier to pack, they're thinner so they dry faster, and they just simplify my whole closet at home as well. Rule number 8. Stop trying to find the Holy Grail. And I know that it might sound a little bit ironic coming from someone like me who tests so many different travel backpacks to find the perfect one. But even though I have not found my perfect bag yet, it does not really matter, because every single bag that I have traveled with so far just did the job. Some may have been more comfortable than others, and sometimes I like the bottle holders more than others, but overall every single bag was very useful to travel. But I slowly start to realize that there is no thing as the perfect item, and maybe I don't need to look for it that hard. Because I always have to kind of remind myself of that, because I am someone who can spend a lot of time trying to find the perfect thing to take on the next trip. But when I think back over my trips over the last few years, I don't remember which gear I brought on which trip. I remember the places I saw, the conversations, the experiences I had. So now I always try to ask myself if I can make this work with the things that I already have. So maybe my phone charger isn't as fast as the newest model, but is it honestly worth all this time and effort researching and the money paying for it just so that my phone charges 15 minutes faster? Or will I be fine just bringing the old charger that I have and live with it? Rule number 9, don't dress to impress. This is a more personal rule, I think, but it also helps me a lot leaving things at home, and it also is critical for my peace of mind and my safety. When I travel, my goal is always to blend in with everyone around me, and I don't want to stand out. I never want to show off any wealth. I mean, I don't wear clothes with flashy logos, I don't have designer handbags, I don't wear any jewelry at all. I don't even own a wedding ring because it just does not match my lifestyle, I would say. The only jewelry I wear are those silicone tunnels in my ear. Also things like if my phone case cracks before a trip, I will not replace it. So why am I doing this? For me, there are 2 main reasons. The first one is obviously safety. What I saw on my travels is that you are kind of an easier target for theft if you look wealthy. So for example, that guy in Brazil who just was riding his motorcycle and then just grabbed the jewelry of the girl and ripped it right off her neck while driving. So things like this happen, and blending in and not showing off any wealth makes me feel a lot safer. The second benefit for me lies in connecting with others. I feel like if I'm not there to show off what I have and what I am, that kind of attracts a different kind of person, the kind of people that I want to meet. And I feel like it helped us to have more authentic conversation with locals and other fellow travelers who are just looking past your material possessions. Rule number 10, learn to cover all your needs with the minimum. And if I had to pick one of those rules to live by, then it would be this one, and it kind of brings everything full circle. The ultimate goal for me is to be as comfortable as possible with the minimal amount of items. And this requires a lot of trial and error, and I also did not figure it out on the first try. And just this whole process of refining it is something that I really enjoy. So my packing list today is the result of years of refinement and of constantly asking myself, What is the absolute minimum that I need to bring, that I'm comfortable and that I'm safe? And what makes this so addictive for me is that I feel like every time I pack less, I can focus more on the trip and less on the weight on my back. And I don't want to spend all my time hauling around heavy bags or worrying about the safety of my things or worrying if I forget something. So for me, the ultimate payoff of this whole thing is not necessarily to have a lighter bag, but just to have a lighter mind. And that makes every trip much more enjoyable for me. And another thing that makes making these videos much more enjoyable for me is if you would be so kind and subscribe to my monthly newsletter or to my channel. And other than that, thanks for watching, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye!